Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Annie the Enigma, here to talk about something a bit sensitive, I guess. So, as of the past few months, we've seen people trying to enslave white people and it being condoned. We've seen pussy hats, women, and feminists condone blowing up the White House and that being condoned. And we've seen UC Berkeley riots recently happening where people could have died, and that too being condoned. How I feel about this is how low are we gonna go? Are you people gonna go? Before you start questioning why you're doing it and what purpose it's for, before, say, you get into too much trouble. What I'm trying to say is that, honestly, someone could have died, someone could get hurt, and honestly, it all lands on these groups who condone and the people who continue to condone. I'm not saying they should inhibit their freedom of speech. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying, do you think about what you're condoning and how far you're willing to condone it? How low are you going to go before you start questioning, what am I doing this for? Someone could get hurt and someone could die. And this is going so far that some have even condoned genocide. I know you call these people names. I know you call these people all sorts of things, and I know to you they've hurt others. But what does it make you if you do the same? In my opinion, it doesn't make you any better. I know that this, for a fact, is true. Because I've been to a mental hospital 4 times. All on the basis that I am insane. All on the basis that I'm too crazy, I can't help myself, and I know it's not easy. You're gonna deal with people who have questions about what you are and what you're going through. And sure, you may think that you're better than the doctors because you don't like what the doctors have to say on you and you want to prove them wrong. I know I did. I proved my doctors wrong because they told me ever since my birth that I would not be able to walk or hear. But due to a surgery on my ears, I was allowed to hear. And a surgery on my hips and some help from my dad, I managed to finally walk. Though it was late in life and I didn't learn how to speak till late in life as well. At least later than a normal child. I also, unfortunately, have a few other problems as well. They also believe that due to my disabilities, I am, well, according to the doctors, would be unable to learn how to drive, would be unable to hold a job, even learn how to live by myself. Because I can't pay attention to anything too long. I proved them wrong. And I now live by myself. I have a job. I have a bike so far, but I'm learning how to drive. Sadly, my story doesn't seem to resonate about as well as someone who say fakes being disabled. And it really does bother me. But more props to them if they're really going through the diagnosis, if they're really having the issue. But I do understand for those who really are faking it. It's sad, if not angry. But my thing is that sadly, these same people, these celebrities even, to the media, they condone acts of violence that should not be condoned under any circumstance. That our country fought long and hard, regardless how you see them, to no longer condone under any circumstance. We are condoning slavery, segregation, women being Sharia law. And I can chalk this all up to ignorance when it comes to how the media wants to portray things. And that's true, that's true. But the sad part is, when that ignorance gets so bad that people have no idea what they're doing, I have to ask those who are SJWs this as they condone acts of violence to, say, Milo Yiannopoulos or another man, another human being even. How far are you willing to go to get what you want in life? And even then, what is it you want in life that you're willing to go so far as to condone something and become something that you yourself were in the beginning against? In other words, if you want something so bad that you're willing to become the very monster that quote-unquote put that very thing against you to try and rid the world of it, why is it you want it so bad then that you're willing to go that far? That is my ultimate question. Under no circumstances should you ever go that far, because then it only proves that you are, as I call you, a hypocrite. You're only as bad as the person who did it to you. And this is something I myself never want to condone. Hence why I don't ever want to be a racist. I don't ever want to be a sexist. I don't want to ever be, for slavery or segregation. Any of this stuff that the media or anybody else pulls. I don't like being talked down to by the celebrities. People who I once looked up to in their movies and idolized at times. It's sad that they're condoning this? This can't be real. But sad enough, they are. Double standards? My God, can't these people understand what it means to be a real person again? It's sad that these people are going to go this far to make others do such things. It sounds so much like what I went through. People wanted me to be something I wasn't. They did genuinely want me to be something I wasn't. And sad enough to say, I was something I wasn't. I wasn't the always optimistic, happy, gullible Annie. I was gullible. I was gullible enough to believe it. But odd enough to say, I realized I didn't want to be that person anymore. I was something better, more intelligent, and I wanted more out of life than just doing what I did all the time. So I began to fight. However, I didn't want to come into a world. I wanted to come into the world the way it was. Sadly, that world is being destroyed. It's being destroyed day by day by the belief that somehow we're unequal, somehow we're underprivileged, or somehow there's a wage gap, or somehow there's this and that. And I'm like, this was never pointed out before. This was never there before. When did this come up? Why did this come up? This is so weird. And as this continued to show, and the people who were gullible enough to believe it continued to believe it, I began to realize something's wrong. These people were buying it much like how I used to. And odd enough to say, the more they did, the more they became just as violent. Like in the last years before I left. And went on my own. I didn't like how angry I was becoming. I didn't like it at all. But I don't like being an angry person overall. I like being optimistic. I like being an entertainer. I like seeing smiles on everybody's faces, making people happy. But sadly, that's not what we're having. People are angry more than half the time. They're passionate about something that to me isn't real. It doesn't exist. And they're trying to make it exist. Sure, there are people that are racist. There are people who are sexist. But the more you try to push this on, the more you're going to create more people who are racist and are sexist. And sadly, that is exactly what these people have become. They have become something they were probably set out to be against. There is a law even that said that the fascists of the future would call themselves anti-fascists. And that the longer an argument goes on, the higher the chances of calling someone a Nazi arises. Just count in the past couple of months how many times the term Nazi has been used on someone who doesn't agree with your opinion or you just don't like at all. Just think about it. How many times have you called someone else a Nazi? So my question, again, is how far are you willing to go how far are you willing to go to get what you want? And do you really want it so bad that you're willing to become something you were set out to be against to get that thing you want? Or is that thing you want not the thing you want anymore once you become the thing you were set out against? It's really a good question. I know I added a bit more, but that's a solid proof. That's all you need to ask. You really need to think before you leap, especially given how you are emotional. We have a right to our emotions. I was deprived of my own due to the medications I was on for a good while. And once I was introduced to mine, it was a while before I controlled them. Even to this day, I find myself a bit confused about the emotions I still go through. It's not always easy. But I will say this much. It's not a good thing to be angry. It's not a good thing to be used the way you are. You need to question yourself. Is this really what you want? Are you so desperate to make something of yourself that you're going to hurt someone, a reputation, someone's life, or someone's existence. I will say that this may not affect everybody, but this was a message to the SJWs who do violence as an act to try to get what they want in life. Because they do need to think before they leap. And that is my genuine word on this issue. Think before you act, or you may wind up being in a hole you're never going to get out of. Or even if you do, you'll wind up with scratches and scars that'll be on you for the rest of your life. And you'll never be able to get rid of them. So please, for the love of God, think. Think before you act.